What's up, guys? It's Spot MMA here, and I think we all have seen the headlines about Colby Covington suing Jorge Masvidal for that incident in 2022 where Masvidal sucker punched Colby Covington while he was on dinner with the Nelk boys. And pretty much the context of that is they had a fight in 2022. They had a main event of pay-per-view. It was a massive fight, and the build-up, it was built on they were brothers. Now they're enemies. Now they hate each other. And they were shit-talking back and forth a bunch. And the big thing was Colby Covington went at Masvidal's family, even though it was really just him calling Masvidal a deadbeat dad and saying that he had an Obama phone, which pissed off Masvidal a lot. And a lot of people are kind of siding with Masvidal, saying, like, Colby shouldn't have talked about his family, shouldn't have talked about this, shouldn't have talked about that. When really, all Colby really said was Masvidal's a deadbeat dad. And I feel like that's more of an insult on him than it is his family. That's just me. Maybe other people have different opinions on that. Feel free to let me know. But anyway, so they fight. They have a big fight in March of 2022. And Colby Covington dominates Masvidal. He does get dropped in, I believe, round 4, round 4 or 3. He gets dropped with a big right hand. And that was kind of the highlight of the fight. It was a pretty boring fight, but Colby Covington just pretty much dominated him with the wrestling for 5 rounds. Masvidal was obviously pissed off with his performance. They were shit-talking after the fight. Security had to get involved a little bit there, break him up a little bit, because they were getting pretty antsy at the end of the fight. And then, I think it was like a week later, something like that. Colby Covington's out with the Nelk boys, and Masvidal gets in a mask and like a big coat, and he puts a hood on, and he runs into the thing, and he sucker punches Colby Covington right in the face, and he chips these 2 teeth. He chips those bad boys. And there's a video, it's in the thumbnail, the picture of it. And, so nothing really came of it. And I think this is really what I wanted to talk about, is I think the reason nothing came of it is maybe the UFC maybe told Colby Covington, hey, do us a solid, we'll do you a solid. What happened next? What was the next thing that happened in Colby Covington's career after that? He got a title shot against Leon Edwards, a fight that a lot of people didn't think he deserved. Why did he get that? I don't know. Why did Michael Chiesa get a big-time UFC send-off at UFC Seattle, Why did he get 2 layup matchups? Why did he get Tony Ferguson on a 7-fight win streak? You start connecting dots. You see, Colby didn't sue Masvidal for that incident in 2022. Chiesa didn't sue McGregor when he threw a dolly into the bus and gave him a giant cut and made him miss out on a big payday against Khabib Nurmagomedov. And he didn't sue them, and he didn't ruin, their big plans. So, I don't know. I'm just noticing. I'm not saying anything. I'm just noticing. But now, in the big 2026, or maybe the fight was in 23. Their fight might have actually been in 23. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it was in 2022 or 2023. But anyway, I think it was in 2023, actually. I think I misspoke. But anyway, now in 2026, Colby Covington is now suing Masvidal, like 3 years later after the event. He's suing him for, he's suing him for, the dental work, and he's suing him for, emotional unhappiness. I think that was, the big thing that was getting talked about, was he was suing him for, not being happy or something like that. But anyway, I think the reason that Colby Covington is suing Masvidal now and not then, because you do have to think about this, why would you sue someone now? Why would he sue him now? It makes no reason, really. It could be a spite at Masvidal, sure. I do think that is partly of it. But I think it is really because the way the UFC has been treating Colby Covington recently. I mean, this past whole year, since, December, we've all been hearing Colby Covington saying, yo, I'm ready to fight. Let's go. And we all were just assuming, they're waiting for him. They're going to put him on the White House card. They didn't put him on the White House card. So what does that mean now for Colby Covington? We don't know. And he says he doesn't know. He says that he's pretty much been ghosted by the UFC. They're not offering him fights. He felt disrespected by not being on the White House card. And he's been saying, the UFC said he was injured. And Colby Covington said, I'm not injured. They're lying. And so it's just been a kind of a weird scenario where the UFC has kind of turned on Colby Covington kind of out of the blue. I mean, you look at this. This is a guy who was a company guy through and through. He almost got cut for not being entertaining enough. So he gets on the mic in Brazil, as he says, risked his life to become more entertaining, which, he partly did, He went into that Brazilian crowd, cut the promo that we all know, and the rest is history pretty much. But, he became a big draw for the UFC, a big guy to build up fights for. You look at the Usman fight. Those fights were gigantic. They were massive. But yeah, and that was because of him. Masvidal did shit talk, or Usman did shit talk a little bit, but that was just because of the shit talk of Colby Covington. He was the guy that everyone hated. Then that was the role that Colby Covington fit, and he played it perfectly. He made every fight that he was in bigger. He made every event he was on bigger. He put more eyeballs in the sport, even in like a negative kind of way with the Leon Edwards fight with the 7th layer of hair. That, maybe went a little too far on that one. I think we all kind of agree on that. I think the UFC kind of probably said, hey, kind of watched it after that. But, that still got eyeballs on the fight. It was like, oh, well, he said something about his dad. Now Leon Edwards is going to put the work on him. No. It was a boring decision. And you could say that affected it. He gets the Buckley fight after that. He gets dominated. And then we haven't seen him since. I think that fight's going on that was like a year. That was last year, right? Yeah. That was last year because then Buckley fought Usman. So we've been in Colby Covington list for like a year and a half now. So we don't really know what's going on. And I think Colby Covington suing Masvidal is a big fuck you to the UFC from Colby Covington, because who's in the headlines right now for a potential McGregor fight? Masvidal. He didn't sue him when he was boxing Nate Diaz. He didn't sue him when he was fucking doing and whatever else he was doing outside the UFC. He's showed up now that the UFC has put a thing out saying that, or has blocked Netflix from using him on the MVP card before they can potentially use him for a potential McGregor fight. That's when Colby Covington chooses to sue them. And I think that's a tactic. I think that's like a thought-out maneuver from Colby Covington, because I think he's pissed off at the UFC, and I really think he is. I think he's pissed off that Masvidal is getting the McGregor fight and not him. I feel like that's a fight he would jump to get. He would shit talk in that fight. He feels like he would make that fight bigger from the shit talk. They would have a lot of back and forth. Masvidal, of course, would shit talk too, and that would also be a massive fight. But I feel like just Colby Covington's kind of fed up with the UFC. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I really wanted to talk about. Just a nice little yap. But I think that is something to think about, and I think this is a big sign. The UFC is pissing a lot of people off, and with this big MVP card coming up, it seems like the tides might be turning against the UFC. I'm not saying it will. This MVP fight is this MVP card, sorry. It's not Michael Venom Page. It's the MVP Jake Paul promotion for the Netflix, the Ronda Rousey versus, Ngannou, Lins, Diaz, Perry. I think that is just going to be a one and done. But if it's not, and they start signing some guys, we could see people start jumping ship for sure. Because the UFC they're not making a lot of friends right now. They're kind of burning a lot of bridges. It's a weird time for the UFC, isn't it? We thought Paramount, oh no, pay-per-view, this is gonna be so awesome, and it's interesting. I'll say that, and it's gonna be an interesting thing to watch for the next year, 2, 3, up until this 4, 5, up until this Paramount deal's done. It's gonna be an interesting thing to kind of sit back and watch, because it is pretty interesting. And that's pretty much it. I just want to make a quick yap about it. I thought it was pretty interesting, the timing wise, on why Colby Covington's suing and everything like that. So anyway, this has been Spot. I'm out. See you, boys.